Yesterday, the Likud canceled its leadership primary after no candidate emerged to challenge former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's iron grip on that party as it heads towards the November 1st general election. But that does not mean there aren't potential successors waiting in the wings. And the leading figure among them may be Parliament member Nir Barkat, the former mayor of Jerusalem, who has come second to Netanyahu in polls assessing the popularity of Likud lawmakers. Well, earlier I spoke with Barkat about his role in the party, its plans for the campaign, and if a Likud-led right-wing government will be able to coexist with the Biden administration. Nir Barkat, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
Pleasure.
First, I have to ask you, the Likud prides itself on being a Democratic party. It has primaries, but yesterday canceled its primary for the leadership because no one emerged to challenge former Prime Minister Netanyahu. But you yourself, polls have showed you're very popular in the Likud. Also, all the polls have showed you would gain nearly as many seats in a general election. There are many who think you would be better positioned to form a right-wing government. So why not run against him in that primary, at least just to solidify your position as maybe a number 2 in the Likud?
As you said, the Likud is the only large party that has primary elections prior to the general elections, and I'm very proud of that. That means that we all have to go to meet the 130,000 electable Likud members. And by speaking to them, you know what's going on, and eventually the list becomes a collective wisdom of what the public has to say. Netanyahu is the leader that we support, and nobody's challenging him. Therefore, in a democratic and an election primaries, he is number 1 in the list. And the primaries that is happening now is from number 2 to the end of the list. And it's a classic list, and I'm very, very happy and proud to be part of the Likud.
Well, what do you say to those who have said, and even in the last couple of days have said it, there is a cult of personality built around Benjamin Netanyahu in the party that intimidates anyone from challenging him?
I believe that he's the best that we have right now, and I support him because I believe he is the right person to lead us in the next government. So the support, for me, is genuine because I honestly believe he's the person to lead us. And everything else is, even Netanyahu says we don't need anything else. None of the gimmicks, our ideology and personalities is what leads the Likud.
All right, well, let's talk about the election. Polls show the Likud would be close to forming a government, but may need a couple of extra seats. What is the key messages, the key issues in this campaign that you think may get the Likud those few extra seats?
Well, I think that the public now understands that this the last government is a huge failure. They have no clue of how to deal with a huge increase in pricing. They have increased the taxes rather than to decrease them, rather than supporting the fundamental foods and the cost of living. They don't get it. And even on the Israeli national pride and security, the internal security in our country has dramatically dropped. So the public now understands that this whole idea of having left and right governed by the Islamic movement has failed. And I believe a number of people, a number of voters will understand that and come back to vote Likud. That is some of the key messages.
Well, you started off with cost of living and economic matters, of which you have some expertise, and you were talked about as a potential finance minister. If someone votes for the Likud, where is Nir Barkat going to be in a future government? Where would you like to be?
I'm going to be around and influence, naturally, the way that the government is structured. I will do the best I can, but I'm not talking today about what I'll do after the elections. We have to first win the elections. And to win the elections, I'm going to be around convincing people that our way is the right way. Become more liberal, decrease taxes, become customer-centric, serve the people, not in a socialistic way, number 1. And number 2, we have to be really aggressive with the bad guys, starting from Iran, through anybody that is challenging Israel's security, and side by side to that, be really nice and good with the good guys. That's the Abraham Accords, how to expand them, and how to work locally in Israel to dramatically increase the government investment all over, both for Jews and Arabs on the one hand, but be very aggressive with anybody that is challenging Israel's security.
Well, let's talk about challenging Israel's security. You're the former mayor of Jerusalem. We just had U.S. President Joe Biden here. There was talk of potentially reopening the U.S. consulate in East Jerusalem. He did visit what's called Arab East Jerusalem. How would a Likud-led right-wing government deal with the Biden administration without avoiding the kind of friction with the U.S. that we did see in previous Likud-led governments by Benjamin Netanyahu?
I'm very happy that President Biden visited Israel. Any visit from any American president to Israel is an honor and respectable and really good for the relationship. We have differences of opinions on the unity of the city of Jerusalem that will never be divided. As mayor of Jerusalem, we did everything to serve all constituencies in an equal manner. We've invested in East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem, of course, but the ideology, the city of Jerusalem has to be a united city. It will never be divided. And we explain our view to our American friends in the United States. And even if there are disagreements on some of the issues, that's fine. We know how to dramatically increase the relationship and make them as bipartisan as possible. It is important. And we can live with the American administration with some differences of opinions. It's not the end of the world.
Okay. You, as mayor of Jerusalem, you also deal with tensions or issues related to divide between the religious and secular communities, or maybe more accurately, the ultra-Orthodox communities and the rest of the population. A right-wing government looks like it would be very dependent on both ultra-Orthodox parties and a religious Zionist party that has gone far right to previous. How will it deal with those issues and maintain a kind of some kind of semblance of plurality, or would you like to see a broader government headed by Likud?
When I was mayor of Jerusalem, out of the 31 council members, I formed a coalition of 31 council members. And we worked, all of us, agreed to the status quo. Now, status quo, my interpretation of status quo, is where you have ideologies that will never meet, that will never agree. We make social compromises for the benefit of living together in harmony. And when you live in the city of Jerusalem, you realize that you're not going to get everything you want. That's fine. Because while it's imperfect, it's actually perfect. Because everyone is willing to accept the fact that there are people different than you in the city of Jerusalem. That is the key, not just to Jerusalem. It's the key for living in Israel. Respect status quo. Understand that you're not going to get everything you want, because we have to live here rather than fight here together.
Well, just to clarify, because you did establish a very broad coalition as the mayor of Jerusalem. Is that what you're advocating if the Likud can form a government, that it bring in parties even from the center and the left as well as the right?
I came with a very clear agenda to Jerusalem, which people bought into. I was elected by the new agenda I put on the table. I added that as a supplement to the coalition agreement, and everyone respected, and we moved on to fulfill the agenda. And what we're going to do is put a clear agenda on how we want better economy. We did that. That's the way of life. That's what I do. We put an agenda that is a Likud agenda with very clear understanding of how to improve security, economy, Israel's periphery, and other elements. And anybody that agrees to such an agenda is willing, we will negotiate with him to be added to the coalition agreement into the government.
Even an Arab party?
The current Arab parties are not Zionists, so they will not agree to what we're putting on the table, and they will not be part of the government.
Okay, Nir Barkat, Likud lawmaker Nir Barkat, thank you for joining us.